Really, really happy everybody's here. It's really good. Thank you very much. And I want to, main purpose I want to do with their meeting regularly is just to have a sangha of devotees, but not just a sangha of friends, but a sangha where we speak about Krishna Katha and things. And it's very, very important that we meet regularly. And it's been really hard for us, Ukraine, traveling different places, and then uh, Chaitanya Prabhu, am I able to? Yeah, I'll send it out again, chapter 6. And then, what do you call it? Bhishma Panchaka, I was also pretty, we were doing some brata, getting ready for our writing retreat here. So I've been thinking a lot about writing lately. So, but now that looks like it's getting out of the way, except that we've got an operation coming up, so I'm still a little uncertain about that. I'm just going to share in our WhatsApp group, chapter 6, for everybody. And also I'm going to put this on the screen too, as we read. So I'm going to go ahead and just say a few introductory prayers in it. Gora Graganya Gana Gocha Goloruharam Goranga Guditama Gopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavadam Satitam Namami Utama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kokola Kahe Premananda Hemona Goranga Hridaya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Bhidana Parama Pumata Tismai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishi Yustat Priya Jana Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunataptam Brajabala Bapahimam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we've gone now up until chapter 6 of Embankment of Separation. And for anybody who's watching online later on with this, this is a new numbering system. This is what I think used to be chapter 3 in the first printing of Embankment of Separation. Now we've added 3 new chapters, and it's become chapter 6. So we already went through those previous chapters in some of our discussions here. And we've come to one of my favorite chapters. Getting ready to approach this chapter and thinking about how to share this with you and how to describe it, what comes to my mind is some of the comments from Satyaraj Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada's disciple, a well-known writer and thinker. and how he was saying something to the effect that the Embankment of Separation is a very important book in mystical Gaudiya Vaishnavism, something like that. It has a particular niche which we don't find in other places. And in this particular chapter, the fainting of Ramananda Roy is very, very esoteric, very mystical, amazing chapter. And the purpose of this, because when we start something, we should always have some understanding of of our purpose, what is it we're doing. The purpose of this chapter, the purpose of this book, as we've discussed so many times, is to inspire devotees to take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as my Guru Maharaj once told me in New York City in 1994, he said, there's three things that are very important to me. One is that I want to preach to the preachers. I feel very unhappy when I see the preachers falling down and going away. The second thing is that I want to show that everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books. And those people who try to say that Prabhupada only taught ABC, I want to make them mum. And the third thing is that I want to show that there's everything in Prabhupada's society. So for these three purposes, he spoke these kind of talks. It's not to show off or not for some kind of sahaja, strange thing or something. Although these are topics which we're not used to hearing in depth, they're not such unusual topics. This particular topic about Ramananda Roy is close to my heart for a number of reasons. I was fortunate to be present when Guru Maharaj was giving his talks. But aside from that, in 1995, we were in Mayapur, and Guru Maharaj had refused to give any classes or any talks at that time because some people were complaining that about his followers and things, and he wanted to keep kind of a low profile, I guess. So we were feeling a little sad, no Hari Katha. And one of my good friends suggested that we go to visit one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers. That's a little radical to mention in ISKCON, but that's what we did. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. And we went to see him, and I think it was, maybe we met him once before or something. I think we had. We weren't very, he didn't remember us or know us or anything. We're not like close with him or anything. We just went, Maharaj, you're a sadhu, and we want to have your darshan. And he started speaking some of the same topics that we find in this chapter about the fainting of Ramananda Roy. Not in the same way that Guru Maharaj is speaking, and not directly about Ramananda Roy, but about Krishna entering into the heart of Radha. In fact, he quoted some of the same, Rasastamam Ritva, he quoted some of the same pramanas that my Guru Maharaj quotes. And I'm just mentioning all this as a little bit of perspective about this chapter. Sometimes when we approach, we want to have a walk through the forest, and we want to appreciate different trees, but before we approach it, we say something about the forest in general. So another thing I find interesting about this subject matter in current literature is Naranjan Maharaj, both Naranjan Maharaj and Shivaram Maharaj have discussed aspects from this chapter in some of their books and classes and things. Shivaram Maharaj in his Braja Nava Braja Mahima book, he speaks about some of the points from this chapter. And I was just mentioning this because we like to see the perspective and what is the relevance of this for all of us. So I want to start the reading myself, and we can take some turns. And I want to kind of summarize, because the first page or so that I'm flipping through here, all the way up until about this subheader called Struck with Wonder, you may see on your screen, is kind of an introductory thing. I'll read a little bit of it, but I don't find the particular verses. The verses are all important, but they're not super important, and I don't want to just be reading. So Guru Maharaj, in this chapter, is going to speak something about Ramananda Roy, and he's speaking about how Mahaprabhu is a combined form of Rasaraj Krishna and Mahabhava Mai Radha. And he said, we understand this. He said, but what is the means that they combine together? I remember when I first heard him speaking about this, that I never even thought of that question. Maybe I'm just so dull. But how did Radha and Krishna combine together as one? I didn't even know that was like a legal question that you're supposed to be able to ask. So this is the beginning of this chapter, asking this question. And he goes on to quote this verse, Chaitanya Nityananda, that anyone who has Nityananda and Mahaprabhu in their heart, they'll be very happy with these conclusions, and they'll understand this Siddhanta, because Sabha Siddhanta Se Paibe Ananda, they become ecstatic by hearing this Siddhanta, which means that they're the persons who can understand it. And without the mercy of these Premi Bhaktas, Guru Maharaj speaks, we can't understand this very, very deep topic. And this Siddhanta, this Prema topic, Prema Tattva, it's like the newly grown twigs of a mango tree. And they're very soft and reddish, and those are very dear to cuckoo birds and the parrots. But those persons who are like camels, ustrera, and are abhaktas, who are not devotees, nahoy prabesha, they can't enter into it. So why is Guru Maharaj making these points? Indirectly, I think he's saying this is the door. There's a gateway to this. There's a lock on this topic, and only certain people are going to be allowed inside. And if you're not relishing, if you're not happy with these kind of topics, then you can't enter into it. And so then he offers his pranams. Ataiva Bhaktaganan Kori Namaskar. He offers his pranams. This is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 4 from Kaviraj Goswami, same with these previous two verses, where he's offering obeisances to these Premi Bhaktas. And saying, by their mercy, I'm going to try to describe this subject, even though it's chamatkar. Chamatkar means very, very astonishing. Because, and then Guru Maharaj goes on, because Bhaja Gauranga, Kaha Gauranga, Laha Gauranga, Namri, these devotees of Mahaprabhu who are always doing Gauranga Bhajan, worshiping Gauranga, chanting Mahaprabhu's names, Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaja, Seho Amara Pranare, they're my prana, they're my life and soul. So those Premi Bhaktas are the eternal associates of Mahaprabhu. Now I'm just going to read. Ramananda Roy, Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath, and the Rasa Acharyas like Srivas, Sripad Prabodhananda Saraswati, and Sripad Kavi Karnapur. All these Premi Bhaktas have relished these nectarian Prema Tattva, and they have expressed it. If we follow in the footsteps of such Premi Bhaktas, Sakhi Manjaris, who are our gurus, we can get their mercy. Then we'll be able to relish this Prema Tattva. Those who have received the mercy of Chaitanya Nityananda, especially of Nityananda Prabhu, they'll be able to swim in this Gora Rasa Mahasindhu, the great ocean formed with the mellow of Gora. Otherwise, one cannot swim in it. You cannot even approach the shore of that ocean. You'll be far, far away from it. What to speak of entering it and swimming? And then Guru Maharaj says, this is a very big topic. I'm confused. I've tried to enter into this big ocean, and I do not know which way to go, this way or that way. It is such a big topic. Why did Ramananda Roy faint? Roy Ramananda faint. What a dramatic introduction for this chapter, put in such a beautiful way. Actually, this is one of the techniques I found as a teacher that Guru Maharaj employed quite often in his classes, is raising questions. Beautiful questions, which I'd like to know. And by asking a good question, sometimes a good question is even more important than a good answer. By asking a good question, it evokes in us the spirit, the curiosity to understand what is the answer to that. So it begins in speaking about Ramananda Roy. Now, I'd like to just touch a little something on Ramananda Roy as a personality, because it's not something Guru Maharaj speaks directly about in this chapter, but it's very, very important. In the Madhya Lila of chapter 8, which is the Ramananda Samvad, which is where this discussion takes part from this chapter of Embankment of Separation, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Ramananda Roy, Mora Koti Namaskar. Huh? I offer my Koti Namaskar, millions and millions of obeisances, Koti Namaskar, 10 million obeisances at least, to Ramananda Roy, who's Janamukhi Koila Prabhu Rasada Bishtar. Because from his mouth, Rasada Bishtar, this rasa was expanded. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to the mouth of Ramananda Roy and expanded this subject matter. So Ramananda Roy is a very, very important person. In the 10th chapter of the Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Kaviraj Goswami speaks about the tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he speaks about many of the different associates. And he mentions there about Bhavananda Roy, and how Mahaprabhu embraced him and told him that previously you were Pandu and your 5 sons were the 5 Pandavas. And those 5 sons of Bhavananda Roy, Ramananda Roy, Patanayak Gopinath, Kalanidhi, Sudanidhi, and Nayak Baninath. Those are the 5 different sons of Bhavananda Roy. And they're all very, very dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu told Bhavananda Roy, so that Ramananda Sahamora Deha Beda Matra, that Ramananda Roy and I were one. There's no difference between us. The only difference is Deha Beda Matra. Matra means only. The only difference is Deha Beda. There's our bodies look a little different. That's the only difference. We have 2 different bodies, but we're one soul. So in the Gaura Ganesh Deepika, it speaks about how Ramananda Roy was formerly Arjun, and it says there that he was Lalita. And Prabhupada, in his purport to Adi 10:134, he says that he's considered to have been an incarnation of Gopi Lalita, although in the opinion of others, he was an incarnation of Vishaka Devi, which is what Prabhupada describes in his purports in Madhya Lila chapter 8, in which everywhere throughout our Gaudiya literature, it's a topic which is a little close to my heart. Sri Damodar Goswami is repeatedly and always described as Lalita in Krishna Lila, and Ramananda Roy is Vishaka, except in Gaura Ganesh Deepika. Now I asked one sadhu scholar, Fakir Mohan Prabhu, how do we understand that? And without any hesitation, he told me, well, this is only in the recent edition of the Gaura Ganesh Deepika. He says there was some interpolation. I don't know, I have no evidence to support that, but that's his comment, just to share that with you. But he is considered to be, Ramananda Roy is considered to be an incarnation of Vishaka, or some say Lalita, Vishaka, Arjun, Arjunya Gopi, and the Panchapandava Arjun, and Arjuna Saka, 4 different persons. And I don't want to go real deep into that subject, because that's a topic. How do we understand so many different personalities being in the one body of one of the associates of Mahaprabhu that's mentioned in a number of different places? To my knowledge, I've not seen any direct comments from our acharyas about this subject matter. But reading over different things, my impression, oh, Krishna Khan, I forgot to do this with the socks. I'm sorry, I remembered earlier. Some household thing. Back to Ramananda Roy. But one impression I get from reading different things is that it's not that 4 different souls entered into one body of Ramananda Roy, but it's that different personalities empowered, some of their Shakti went into them. And in the same way that the disciple, in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, is considered to be a separable constituent of the Guru. He's an aspect of the Guru. It doesn't mean that there's some weird thing, like some movie where somebody becomes possessed by a ghost or something, and the Guru enters into your body, and it's not like that. But that Guru, some of his Shakti enters into the disciple, and therefore we respect the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and especially those who have really taken up his mission to their heart. We respect him so much because we find Srila Prabhupada in them. We find the Guru in the disciple. So in the same way, it's not that Ramananda Roy is an incarnation directly of all these four different personalities, I would say, but rather we see that there's some Shakti from each one of them. Now, the position of Ramananda Roy and Vishaka is brought out by Raghunath Das Goswami in a beautiful way in the 9th verse of Manasiksha. Mad Isha Natatve Braja Vipina Chandram Brajavane Ishvarim Tanatatve Tadatula Sakitve Tulalitam Vishakam Sikshali Vitarana Gurutve Priyasaro Girindro Tat Preksha Lalita Rati Datve Smaramana. Raghunath Das Goswami has given us his Manasiksha, 11 different instructions for the mind. And he's telling us in this particular verse, in verse 9, that my dear mind, you please meditate on Krishna, who's the Braja Vipina Chandra, who's the moon of the Braj forest. He's the Lord of Srimati Radharani, Brajabani Ishwarim. And not just, he doesn't use the name Radha, but he says that personality who's my Ishvari, who's my mistress, who's the Lord of my heart. I should think of Krishna as the controller of the mistress of my heart. And he's that we should meditate upon Lalita, who's Tadatula Sikitve to Lalitam. Tadatula means someone who's incomparable. Tadatula Sikit, Saki means a friend. Tadatula Sikitve to Lalitam. Lalita is the incomparable friend. And then he says, Vishakam Sikshali Vitanan Gurutve Priyasaro. That Vishaka is the teacher. She's a Siksha Guru. And she's teaching so many different things to Radha and Krishna. And we should meditate upon Krishna and upon these different personalities in this way. So Raghunath Das Goswami was one of the intimate members of the Gambhira. He was present there, and he knows, he's sort of described as Srupya Raghu. He's the possession of Sri Damodar Goswami. He's very conscious of Sri Damodar. He's very conscious of Ramananda Roy. He saw the very intimate connection they had with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his purpose was to taste the mood of Radha, to understand the mood of Radha. So he was unable to do that because the mood of Radha is like a vast ocean. So unable to understand how to taste that ocean, then the moon of Krishna, because the moon has some effect upon the ocean, that Brajavipinam Chandram Brajabane, that Krishna who's the moon of Braj, he brought forth two stars, the Vishaka, Lalita and Vishaka stars, who there are also asterisms or constellation stars, which are near to, they're also known as Anuradha, close to Radha, Lalita and Vishaka. And they're also the two most intimate associates of Radha, and they know the mood of Radha. So because they know the mood of Radha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, has brought them into Gaura Leela as Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda to teach him how to relish the mood of Srimati Radharani. And so here, Raghunath Das Goswami, who's so close to Rupa so close to Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda, he's describing in an indirect way, Parokshava, he's describing in an indirect way about Sri Damodar and Ramananda Roy. He's saying that Tadatula Sikitve tu Lalitam, that this is Sri Damodar Goswami. Lalita is the incomparable friend. That incomparable friend is so important in Gaura Leela because as the incomparable friend, Sri Damodar Goswami, Lalita understands the heart of Srimati Radharani and understands what kind of bhajan to do. And Vishaka, who comes as Ramananda Roy, Sikshali Vitarna Gurutve. She's the Siksha Guru. He's a Siksha Guru. And he's speaking philosophy. He's giving instructions. Now, here he's saying that you should meditate upon how they're doing this thing. They're giving that Lalita is a great friend of Radha and Krishna, and Vishaka is the guru who's teaching Radha and Krishna. Now, another indirect meaning of this verse is that Subdhamata Goswami, who's Lalita, is teaching Radha and Krishna, who's come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's a great friend of Radha and Krishna, who's come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Vishaka, who's come as Ramananda Roy, who teaches Radha and Krishna, now is teaching Radha Krishna in Gaura Lila as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, how to taste that mood, the mood of Srimati Radharani. So that's my little introduction into Ramananda Roy. And why don't, Chaitanya Prabhu, would you like to read something from Why Did Ramananda Roy Faint?
Sure. Okay, why did Ramananda Roy faint? Can I skip the Gali?
You can read it or you can skip it. I don't mind. We should definitely the translation.
Okay, Ramananda Roy told Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at first I saw you appear like a sannyasi, but now I am seeing you as Shyamasundar, a blackish cowherd boy. Now what do I see? I see you appearing like a golden doll, and your whole sham body appears covered by a golden luster. Krishna is inside, therefore it is said, Antara Krishna Bahira Gaura, that sham's form is inside, covered up with the effulgence of that golden doll, that is Gaura. And this is what Ramananda Roy saw. Ramananda Roy knows Sham because he is Vishaka Sakhi in Braj Lila. He also knows Kanchana Panchalika, that golden doll, that is Radharani. So he knows both because in Braj Lila he is Vishaka Sakhi, and these two are very dear to him. So why did he faint when Gaura showed him that form? That is the question. He is acquainted with them. Otherwise, how can he say? My dear Lord, I can understand that you have assumed the ecstasy and bodily complexion of Srimati Radharani. By accepting this, you are tasting your own personal transcendental humor and have therefore appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Roy Ramananda says this, so it is not unknown to him. There is no reason to faint. Then why did he faint? Upon seeing this form, Ramananda Roy almost lost consciousness in transcendental bliss. Unable to remain standing, he fell to the ground. He fell to the ground. Why? What is that wonder? He knows all these things. It is not unknown to him. If someone does not know, he may be struck with wonder. But Roy Ramananda knows, so why did he faint?
So it's such an important subject matter. If at this point we're thinking, well, this is not very important to me, or why is this, we should stop for a moment and contemplate why we have those kind of feelings. And this is why I mentioned in the beginning, Guru Maharaj presented kind of a locked gate. And he told us basically there's certain people won't be able to get beyond this gate. And those people, at this point, they may be thinking, well, gosh, what has this got to do with my spiritual life? Because when we're very selfish in our conditioned state, then Atmavan Manate Jagat, we think the whole world is really just all about me. And I'm the most important thing. And how can I purify my heart? How can I do my service? What can I do socially to get along in the society? We think of those things as the most important. But in effect, too, here, what Govinda Maharaj is trying to do is trying to give us a window into the heart of the Lord, a window into the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's such a very wonderful, wonderful thing. And he's doing it initially here just by asking this very simple question. Did we ever wonder? No, think about this. The Ramananda Roy is Vishaka. Vishaka knows Krishna. Vishaka knows Radha. So why did he faint? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested this form, he saw the form of Radha and Krishna. He's seen the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's seen the form of Radha and Krishna. He's Radharani's dear companion. as Vishaka. So why then did he faint? So such an important subject matter. Bana Biharni, would you like to read from Most Acute?
I don't know how my voice will be. I don't know if devotees can hear me. My voice is pretty bad.
You sound okay, but if you'd rather not, I can understand.
I can try, but I don't think it's gonna work.
Just go ahead and try it, and you can stop anytime. We won't fine you.
Okay. The Acharyas have explained it in this way. It is a question of viraha and milan, separation and union. There are 3 types of separation, and they are all discussed in Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani. Similarly, as there are 3 types of separation, there are also 3 types of union, milan. The 3 types of separation are bhavi, bhuta, and bhavan. First, we will explain what is bhavi viraha, what is bhuta viraha, and what is bhavan viraha. With concentrated attention, one should hear about such topics and try to understand them. If Mahaprabhu will shower his mercy upon us, it will be possible. Should I continue?
Yeah.
Akrura has come to Vrajabhumi to take Krishna away. He has not yet taken Krishna away, though it must take place. When the gopis think of this, they feel some pangs of separation. This is bhavi viraha. It has not taken place, but Akrura has arrived and must take Krishna away. At that time, they feel a pang of separation. This is known as bhavi viraha. Then bhuta viraha. After Akrura has taken Krishna away, day after day passes by. The more the days pass, the more the pangs of separation become acute. This is known as bhuta viraha. Then what is bhavan viraha? The gopis are looking on, and before their very eyes, Akrura is taking away their pranakanta, the most beloved of their heart. Akrura is taking away their life. All the gopis come and throw themselves before the wheels of the chariot. Our life is getting out. How can we survive? Let the wheels of the chariot roll on our bodies. Let our bodies be crushed. Let us leave these bodies. They are rolling on the ground now. This is known as bhavan viraha. The pangs of separation during this bhavan viraha are most acute. So bhavi, bhuta, and bhavan, acute, more acute, and most acute.
So this is also a little Sanskrit grammar for us also. Bhavi, Bhuta, and Bhavan. Bhavan means is present tense. Bhavi means future tense, and Bhuta is past tense. These are verbs. It's something that's just happening. So 3 types of viraha, and as Guru Maharaj is going to discuss in the next paragraph. There are also 3 types of union. And Jiva Goswami in his Priti Sandarbha, he speaks a little bit about this, and he says there that he describes just briefly these 3 types. Atadura prabhas. Sucha bhavi bhavan bhutas cheti triveda tatra bhavi yata. That this dura prabhas, when the beloved is far away, it's going to be discussed now. And he says that there's 3 types of it: bhavi, bhavan, and bhuta. So again, bhavi means in the future, and Guru Maharaj gives us example that Akrura has come. And the gopis, they've heard that there's some rumor that Krishna is going to be taken away by Akrura. And already they're feeling separation. Krishna is still present. In that sense, there's no separation. But because at the same time, they're feeling that. When we're with some close friends or relatives, and somebody's going to leave to go to India or something for some time, and we won't see them for a few months, we feel separation, even though it hasn't happened yet. But we know that it's coming up. So that's bhavi, viraha. And bhavi or bhavi, Jiva Goswami calls it bhavi. And then Bhuta Viraha is after Akrura has taken Krishna away. And then the third is Bhavan, in which Guru Maharaj says is the most intense, when it's in the act of happening. So I'd like now to ask Krishna Balaram Prabhu, would you like to read something from Expert Thief?
I can read, Prabhu. Expert Thief. As there are three types of viraha, similarly there are three types of milan or union. What are they? Bhavi, Bhuta, and Bhavan. The same names are used: Bhavi Milan, Bhuta Milan, and Bhavan Milan. We will try to explain it. In the Niduvan, in Niduvan, Vrindavan forest, Radha and Krishna meet together. Krishna is there and Radha has come to meet him. This is Bhavi Milan. They have not yet united, but they are meeting together. Krishna is there, Radha is there. This is Bhavi Milan. Their reunion will come later. Then, when combined together, Radha and Krishna become one body. That is Sri Gauranga. That is known as Bhuta Bhavan. And Vishaka Sakhi has seen this. She is in Niduvan. So it is not unknown to Ramananda Rai. And what is that he has not seen? He has seen Bhavi Milan and Bhuta Milan, but he has not seen Bhavan Milan. So now that was shown to him, and therefore he fainted. It is not such an easy thing to understand. We have to go deeper into this ocean. This Bhavan Milan is wonderful. In this pastime, Rai Ramananda sees the Bhavan Milan. Previously, as Vishaka Sakhi, he had not seen how Nandanandana Rasaraj Krishna enters into the heart of Vashabhanavi Devi Radharani. Krishna was thinking, that Mahabhav is there in the core of her heart, and I have to get it. I have to get it. Otherwise, my three desires will never be fulfilled. But how to get it? Krishna is very expert in stealing. In Stavamala, Rupa Goswami has mentioned Kutuki Rasa Stomam Ridva, that Krishna, who is very expert in stealing, entered into the heart of Radharani and stole it. How? By putting Radharani into the fire of separation. Her heart is like wax. When you make a seal, you put the wax into fire. It melts, then you put the stamp on it. The Sanskrit word is jatu, wax. So Krishna, because he's very expert in stealing affairs, put Radharani into the fire of separation. When Radharani felt the fire of separation in her heart, that wax melted and Krishna entered. As long as it was hard, how could he enter? So first he melted it, then he entered deeper and deeper into the deepest region of the heart of Radharani. That is what Rai Ramananda had not seen before. But then he saw how Krishna was entering, and it was so wonderful that he fainted. Oh, Bhavan Milan. He had seen Bhavi Milan and Bhuta Milan, but he had not seen Bhavan Milan. Therefore he said, first I saw that you were a sannyasi, then I saw Shama Gopa Rupa, a blackish coward boy. Then I saw a golden doll before you, and your whole sham body is covered with the effulgence of a golden hue. I saw this, but he had not seen the Bhavan Milan. How Krishna is entering into the core of the heart of Radharani. When he saw it directly before his eyes, he fainted. This is wonderful.
Very amazing. So this is the most elaborate discussion I've ever seen, just as a point for myself, in literature about how Krishna entered into the heart of Radha. And we're going to continue. I think we'll stop our reading here and we can have some discussion now. But we'll continue reading, and Guru Maharaj gives an even more elaborate description about how that was accomplished by Krishna in the heart of Radha. It's a very, very esoteric and a very, very important thing. And it's such an astonishing thing. Ramananda Roy, who's Vishaka Sakhi, was the most astonishing person. He's used to all kinds of astonishment. She's one of the most intimate associates of Radharani. She's fainting when she sees this thing. This is a very, very important, very, very esoteric subject matter. So I'm just going to say that much and stop there. And I'd just like to go over a little bit real quick if anybody has any reflections or comments or anything. We have a little discussion if you like. Himanti, did you anything that struck you today? Do you want to share? And it's nice if we could get to see you.
Hi Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, my having a problem with my electricity, so my lights actually gone out.
Oh, no
Um,
problem. Yeah, the same thing happened with Chaitanya also.
uh, so I don't know if it's because of the rains. We've been having many days of non-stop rain. So
Oh, really? It was
thank
just
you.
freezing cold.
Sorry, Prabhu.
I said here it's just freezing cold, and I suspect probably for Banaviharani also terribly cold. Yes. Yeah. It's summertime in South Africa right now.
Yeah.
For
So
that.
summer rains and dry winters.
So, anything that struck you, Himanti?
Prabhu, I just wanted to thank you for the astounding class, and especially Maharaj's explanation of why Ramananda Roy fainted. It was so just exhilarating reading along. I just wanted to express that. And I had one question. Earlier you mentioned about receiving Lord Nityananda's mercy. So I was wondering, how can we get Lord Nityananda's mercy? What can we do? What mood can we have to receive Lord Nityananda's mercy?
Well, Krishna in the Adi Puranas, a famous verse which appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, Ye me bhaktajana parthaname bhakta satejanam bhaktanam chaye bhaktas te me bhakta tamo mataha. Those persons who say they're my devotee, they're not my real devotees. But the devotee of my devotee is my real devotee. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami has given a beautiful prayer to Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhum Vande Balopiyad Anugrahata. No. What is it? The purport of the prayer is that I pray that may the devotees in whose hearts reside the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu, may they always be pleased with me. So we want to get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. That refers to the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. So where are those lotus feet at? Where can we find them? Well, they're residing in the heart of the devotees. And so we should try with our whole life, we should always be asking ourselves, Gopal Bhatta Goswami is indicating indirectly, that we should always be asking, is what I'm doing pleasing to those devotees, and especially to my associates that I'm associating with older or senior devotees, to my Guru Dev, is what I'm doing pleasing to them. May they be pleased with me always with what I'm doing. That was his prayer. Let me see if I can find that verse. It shouldn't be very hard to find for me. Somehow it's not coming to my mind, but it's a verse I recite almost every day. Let's see. Yeah, Nityananda Padadvanvam Yesham Hitkani Kala Yetesham Dasan Udasoham Prasidantu Sadaivahi. I'll post this in our WhatsApp chat. I'm a servant of the devotees, and whose hearts reside the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. May they be pleased with me always. So if we become conscious of this, and if this becomes our prayer, that we're praying, and we can recite this verse as an exercise on a daily basis, very nice exercise to do. And by using this as an exercise, it reminds us this is what I should be praying. This is what should be the attitude of my heart, that I want to please these devotees because in their hearts, the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu are there. So if I please them with everything, then definitely I'm going to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And if I don't please them, then how is it possible to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda? Is that helpful, Hemanti?
Thank you, Prabhu. It is. We had a second part to the question. Um, how do we overcome fear of displeasing devotees, like through our services, interactions? I'm always very anxious about that. So I just wanted to know your view on that.
How do we become free from the fear of displeasing devotees?
How do we
Well,
overcome the fear of displeasing the devotees?
yeah. Just a second here. I'm just looking something up in Krishna. First of all, I sometimes, especially in the beginning, a little fear can be healthy. I can tell you a personal story. I traveled with my Guru Maharaj as his personal servant in 1994, and at a certain point, I had some terrible, horrific allergic reaction like I've never had in my life before that or since then. My whole body swelled up. It was bright red and was itching like horrifically. My hands became so huge, it was like I had gloves on. I couldn't even give a massage to my Guru Maharaj. And they had to take me finally to the hospital in the middle of the night and give me some injection and some antihistamine injection. So at that time, we were staying with my godbrother Navadip Chandra Prabhu, Guru Maharaj and I. And Navadvip, he asked Guru Maharaj, he said, what happened to Madhavananda? And Guru Maharaj said, when you get too close to the fire, you can get burned. And then Navadip Chandra says, yes, but Guru Maharaj, but he looks so happy, speaking about myself. And Guru Maharaj said, yes, he has a good attitude. So I look at that exchange is very instructive for me, that I should be very careful and not try to artificially jump into a relationship with Guru and try to act like he's a very close friend or something, but it's like coming close to a fire, and I should be careful. So that fear can be helpful. Indeed, that fear, Srila Rupa Goswami says in Dukkha Trasa Parada Yara Nojitam Vidinata, he says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that there's three things which give rise to humility: dukkha, trasa, and aparada dhyaya. Dukkha means unhappiness, trasa means out of fear, and aparada dhyaya means that having the sense of committing some offense. So we don't want fear, we don't want unhappiness, we don't want to feel like we're offenders. But when those things come, as it happened with Krishna's dear devotee, great devotee, Indra, Krishna smashed him like anything in the pastime of Govardhan Dharana Leela. He smashed the pride of Indra. And by smashing Indra's pride, it was so beneficial for Indra. So Gurudev will smash our pride. And we should be careful when we're dealing with senior devotees not to be too artificially intimate. At the same time, to speak on the other side of things, nobody likes it when people all around them are just stiff and like robots and afraid and shaking, trembling like a leaf. Yes, Maharaj, whatever you say, Maharaj. And I always observed that with my Guru Maharaj and with different senior Vaishnavas, that they appreciate it if someone can treat them like a person. We act in a friendly kind of way. And indeed, in the seventh canto of the Bhagavatam, Narad Muni, he says that we should have an attitude of firm friendship. Gurudeva Suridama, Surida something, he says, that we should have an attitude of firm friendship toward Guru. But if that's not something that we can artificially do, And if someone artificially comes and they just slap you on the back and, hey, Maharaj, so good to see you, and they're acting like it becomes very annoying. So I think a little fear is healthy, but if that fear is too much, we can't even go close to them, and we're shaking and whatever, sometimes even literally, then it becomes a hindrance. But a little fear is good for us. It can be conducive for humility. So how can we overcome that? By trying to think of their pleasure. And they're a person, understanding them as a person. They're not just a god or a GBC or just guru, and I have to treat them like that. That's not the instructions that our acharyas have said. Rather, we should have an attitude of firm friendship. And that attitude of friendship is also a kind of service. But it's something that we have to be careful with. It's something we have to be genuine with. You can't, just like we find it very annoying, all of us, I'm sure, if someone who you hardly even know, especially if they're a younger person than you, all of a sudden wants to act like they're your intimate friend. You just find that very pushy and very annoying. It has to be something genuine. So as we understand closer the heart of Gurudev, and we earn that kind of friendship, which is a friendship in service, that kind of friendship, which is also one of the angas of bhakti, sakyam atmi nivedanam, that kind of sakya, that kind of friendship, as an aspect of bhakti, comes when we meditate on their desire and we serve them and we come close to them, and it's pleasing to them that they're not afraid of them. In the same way, if we someday, when that day comes, when we come before Radha and Krishna, if we're just shaking like a leaf and, oh my God, I can't believe this, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what do I say, what do I do? It's not pleasing to Krishna. When Devaki and Vasudeva, when Krishna killed Kamsa, and he came before them, in the Bhagavatam, it said that at that time they started offering prayers, and they said, actually, you're not really our son. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna, Acharya's this guy, he kind of rolled his eyes, and it wasn't very pleasing to him. And ironically, it's just exactly the opposite of what was spoken by Nanda Maharaj to Uddhava. When Uddhava came and told Nanda Maharaj, he said, actually, Krishna's not your son. And Nanda Maharaj said, what, are you crazy? Of course Krishna's my son. But on the other hand, Vasudeva is in a different mood, and there's some fear there. So when Krishna saw that, he, with his Yogamaya potency, he took that fear away. So they forgot about his position as God, so they could interact with him. And that's pleasing to them. And it's also pleasing to sadhu and guru when someone treats them more like a person. We should just be careful and not be too intimate, too chummy in a way that's artificial. That's terrible. Is that helpful, Hemanti?
That's very helpful. Thank you, Prabhu. I think my heart and mind is tremendously more at ease now. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. How about Nandarani? Are you there? Your logo disappeared, but I'm hoping you're still there with Krishna Balaram Prabhu. Would you like to?
Prabhu, she had to go. The boys are writing exams tomorrow, so she's just doing some work with Nima.
All right. What about yourself? Can we get to see your smiling face? Are you also have the power off?
Yeah, we also have power, but we got the generator on, so we're okay. Prabhu, just in regards to what you're speaking, I almost feel like I'm left hanging on where we ended today.
Yes, it's definitely a hanger.
It was a little easier to understand the context in terms of viraha, and especially in regards to Bhavi, Bhuta, and Bhavan. Past, future, and present. But in regards to Milan, I found it, in reading those examples, I couldn't place the context, in terms of past, present, and at least past, future, and present. And I was hoping you'd get more into that a little.
That's our next session. So we'll go elaborately into that at that time. These two, one point we can lead into with that, though, just to reflect a little bit on what you're saying, is that these two things, the separation and union, Viraha and Sambhog, are two embankments of the river of the Premadara, the river of love, of Braj. And those two embankments, in one sense, they're non-different, but in the other sense, they're opposites. They're opposites, but they're both integral parts of that same river of love. And you can't have one without the other. Both are required. So these two have a very intimate connection. And I don't know, in some of our previous sessions that we spoke about it, Rupa Goswami gives a different little list in Ujjwal Nilamani about different types of separation. He speaks about 4 types of separation and 4 types of union. The fourth type of separation is prabhas, and there's 2 types of prabhas, dura prabhas and sudura prabhas. Prabhas is when Krishna goes and the gopis can't see him for some time. Dura prabhas means for sometimes. Sudura prabhas is when they don't know if they're going to see him or not again at all. And so then there's 4 types of union, and each of those 4 types of union corresponds to one of the types of separation. And the Sudura Prabhas corresponds with Samriddhiman Sambhog. Samriddhiman means fully enriched union. And that Samriddhiman Sambhog takes place after Sudura Prabhas. So if there's no Sudura Prabhas, there can't be Samriddhiman Sambhog. To put it in a way that we would relate to in World War II, when the American soldiers were returning back to the States after fighting in Europe against the Nazis and that. There's a famous photograph of one soldier, I think it was a sailor, when he came back and his sweetheart greeted him, and he lifted her off the ground and he was holding her, kissing her and spinning around. So that's a kind of a mundane reflection of Samriddhiman Sambhog. The Samriddhiman Sambhog, the fully enriched union, can only take place if there was Sudura Prabhas. So these 4 things have connections with each other. And similarly, these 3 types of separation that Guru Maharaj is speaking about, this Bhavi, Bhavan, and Bhuta, they also have some connection in union and in separation. So I'm not really answering your question, but I'm kind of speaking a little more about it in different ways. Is that helpful, something, Prabhu?
Yeah, no, thanks, Prabhu. But you're saying next week we'll continue on this one.
Stay tuned. I mean, you can take prasadam and sleep and do some work and other things. Okay. And so anything else? You really reflections, Krishna Balan Prabhu?
No deep reflections. Just appreciating having you all back. Thank you, Prabhu.
It's nice to see you again. I miss you guys. Bana Biharni, do you have any reflections you want to share with your squeaky voice?
Yes, Prabhu. I was appreciating this point that you made, that your Guru Maharaj is trying to give a give us a window into the heart of the Lord. Really appreciate, and you're also saying that some of us may think, well, what does this have to do with my spiritual life, my advancement, maybe? I was just thinking about how grateful I am to hear these topics and to at least try to understand what it is that moves Sri Krishna's heart, or Mahaprabhu's heart. And I was just thinking about how just by doing that, trying to practice thinking and understanding what Krishna likes and who he loves and who loves him like that, then I can understand him a little more. So I'm very grateful to you for sharing these things with us. Sorry about my voice. And I was wondering, sorry.
Reminds me of Naranjan Maharaj. Even sometimes he loses his voice, but I've seen he just goes ahead and sings anyway, does bhajan, and his voice sounds terrible. And he doesn't apologize. I mark that. I really appreciate it. And to me, it's kind of like telling everybody that, look, it's not that my voice is beautiful, that it's so important. What's important is a feeling coming from the heart, and that's an indirect comment I get from him. You wanted to say something else?
Um, I think I wanted to ask something. Oh, if you could, I'm forgetting it now. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to reflect a little bit on what you just said, though, too, that a window in the heart of other persons, when we're so very selfish, and we know this in relationships, and we've all had relationships with male female friendship relationships, parental relationships, sons and daughters, and whatever. And the more that someone can understand the heart of the other person, the deeper the relationship. And the less that they can understand, the more frustrated we become that they don't understand us, or maybe we may become frustrated that I don't understand them. So in relationships, we intuitively know that it's so very, very important to have a window into the heart of the other person so we can understand something about them. And this subject is relevant for all of us too, because we want to associate with Sadhu Guru. And we want to associate with those persons who have these topics in their heart, who are giving their whole life for these subject matters. It's so very, very important to them. And unless we understand something about these topics, then we can't come close to them. And if we do come close to them and understand what's in their heart, then that heart is a window into the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is we're saying that this Nityananda Padad Vandam Yesham Karnikali Tesham Dasan Udasam Prasidam Tisadaiva, that I pray that the devotees in whose hearts the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu there, may I be the servant of those devotees. This is the attitude of the disciple, that we're always wanting to understand what is the mood of our guru. So anyway, it's my little reflection and comment about windows.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Donna. Take some
I'm just,
throat lozenges and honey and all that kind of good stuff. Ginger. And
thank you.
what's real good in the morning, isn't it, Krishna Kun?
Oh, the best thing is after getting up,
First thing when you get up, before you drink
before
anything,
you drink or brush teeth,
before you even brush your teeth, you take some honey
honey
and
with
turmeric,
black pepper and turmeric.
black pepper and turmeric.
Twice as much
Okay.
turmeric.
Twice as much turmeric as black pepper. And you take that and then you don't drink anything or brush your teeth for half an hour.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic for your voice and for your
Okay.
person.
Thank you.
Mm.
One more comment. I was just thinking about how it's so basic. It's like one of the first things I heard when I started coming, that this kirtan is for Krishna. It's not for our own pleasure. It's for the pleasure of Krishna. But it's something that is a very gradual understanding, because I'm often thinking I need to chant because it's for me, because I'll feel better. I'll feel closer to Krishna. But like to start to understand that I'm trying to chant or even hear for Krishna's pleasure, it's like such a deep thing.
Yeah, thank you. It's ironic, isn't it? You said it's one of the first things you heard. And when you said that, yeah, maybe one of the first things that we hear, but it's one of the last things that we realize. It takes a long, long time because we're so deeply stuck in this Atmavan Manyate Jagat. Everything is surrounding me. I'm the most important person. And that's religion. That's when things become mundane religion. We start thinking about my piety and my social position with the church and with the temple and how people are going to think of me. And then that's the whole purpose for our bhajan. And then even when I go and preach, preaching means that I share my bhajan with other people, that I talk about my chanting and whatever, because it's all about me. But really, it's all about Krishna. It's all about Krishna's pleasure. And we enter into that by Tate Krishna Bhaji Koro Guru De Sevan, by doing our bhajan for the pleasure of the Sadhu Guru. And we do it for their pleasure, then Krishna becomes pleased. And that's our pathway to enter into Krishna's heart. Okay. Thank you, Bana.
Thank you.
Plenty of people, do you have anything you want to share? I don't know if we can see your smiling face because your power went off.
This is all that we can do from a lot. Feels like I'm in the middle of India with no generators, to be honest. At least we have internet.
Yeah. You guys from South Africa. Why is the power going off?
No, we're having this rolling blackout, so it's rotational blackouts to conserve the network at the moment. That's what ends up happening. And
Because
it's been the worst year for this net issue.
everybody's using the AC more for the summertime?
No, it's just the infrastructure is very poorly maintained. So it's now at the end of its life, so to speak, and they haven't really maintained it over this time. So now they're in a phase of desperately trying to keep the grid running, so to speak, until they can find new generation power coming onto the grid again. But it's a touch and go situation.
Is it uncomfortably hot there?
No, it's actually at the moment because as Hemanti was saying that it's been raining incessantly for the last week or so. So it's actually quite cool at the moment. Many people have taken out the jackets. That cool.
It's hard for me to imagine hot weather right now. It's really, really cold here. It's like you'd go out and see your breath all day long and wearing gloves. And
Yeah.
anyway, you had some reflection you want to share, Prabhuji?
Nothing specific. I mean, but Prabhu, I mean, the topic was amazing as you were reading it. And I was kind of looking at Ramananda Roy and he's fainting with these topics, and then I'm going, if he's fainting, trying to understand these topics, seeing this unfolding in front of him, it's obviously a little difficult for us to kind of embrace it at this phase. It's really theoretical at the moment. But what it does show is like the sweetness that is there in all these different phases of the connection from a both separation and union perspective, and something that we can aspire for in some age, in the sense that we can at least face in the right direction, so to speak. Also appreciated the point around, you were talking about the point around the intimacy with the spiritual master. You mentioned it around friendship and these kind of things. And I know what my spiritual master can share from a personal perspective. He treats many of his disciples quite in a jovial manner. But we always try and put this element of still being cautious, because obviously with that attitude of making sure that we don't cross any boundaries. And one stark example of this, if I can share this, and this for our learnings from that perspective, as liberal and as open as my Guru Maharaj can be, one of his older senior disciples who didn't see him for a long time, and he saw him after a while, came running up to him and gave him a hug. Basically did that, and he didn't like it, more from the perspective of the disciple not understanding, or maybe taking the relationship too lightly, from the response he gave. So while many times the spiritual masters can sometimes open up the relationship, it's still our responsibility to still understand to some extent, that this is your spiritual master, there's some relationship from that perspective. And when he does allow you to come closer, then we do it in that respectful manner. So that's the lesson that I learned from that. So it's a little difficult to also then have that combination of friendliness while still maintaining a responsible relationship with your spiritual master. And I say this because again, with my spiritual master, often he'll allow those boundaries to drop. I've seen it happen with me so many times. And then often he'll also have the stance where, remember your position, so to speak. And I think that's more from a learning more than him not trying to allow us in, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a really, really important subject matter. It reminds me of the Prabhupada Lilamrita. Once the devotees were walking with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, remember at that time, they were using the same bathroom with Prabhupada. Prabhupada would wait in the queue behind the devotees sometimes. Prabhupada would wash the dishes, he would cook for the devotees. They were staying together, eating together, sleeping together in the same room sometimes. It was a very, very intimate group. And one day in San Francisco, when they were walking through Golden Gate Park around Stowe Lake, one of the devotees turned to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, you must be feeling so much separation from your Guru Maharaj. And Prabhupada was quiet for a moment and he said, that you do not need to know. The devotee had gone a little too far. And I also think it's a good example that you use about giving a hug. I've seen the same thing many times with devotees. And many times older devotees, they give hugs to younger devotees. I've gotten hugs from so many different sannyasis, from Narendra Maharaj and Radhanath Maharaj and your Guru Maharaj and others. And that's a really wonderful thing. But sometimes I've seen younger devotees who they're not very mature and they don't know proper etiquette. They want to go, as you said, with this devotee, they want to give a hug to Guru Maharaj or to the Maharaj. And it's, when I see that, it really hurts my heart. And sometimes there's some young person just doesn't understand. They want to come and give you a hug, just like a child. Actually, we were in Ukraine recently, and I had a beautiful experience. This little boy, his father brought him to me and asked me to give him a name. I named him Vedaguya. And that little boy, somehow we really connected, he and I. When he would walk through the room, he'd be looking at me constantly. There's a few hundred people, he'd be looking at me and I'd be looking at him. And at one point he came over to me and I asked to his father, can I get, can I have a hug? And I was waiting for him to hug me and he wouldn't. He was just kind of standing there. And then I gave him a hug and he was really happy with that. But I marked it, even such a little boy, that's actually really proper behavior. Not that, a child, it's always sweet when a child comes and gives a hug to an older person. But it's not so appropriate for younger devotees to do that with a senior person. It's just not proper etiquette. Because it's kind of like giving a blessing. And it's like, Maharaj, I want to bless you. And that's not very cool. Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else here want to share anything? Okay. All right, Chaitanya Prabhu, any last words for all of us? Any words of instruction and wisdom?
You put me on the spotlight, Prabhu, but no, not at all.
What we should do, we find ourselves in the darkness of material life.
This is our constitutional position right now. We're always in darkness. So, it kind of reminds us that we're not meant to be like this, but we're still quite dull-headed to what we're trying to aspire in this kind of environment. But Prabhu, I think the team is a few devotees, but we need to get back to the consistency. I know it's a challenge on your end, so we'll be obviously conscious of that and sensitive to that. But hopefully we can get back to the 7 o'clock slot if it works for you. Yeah. And then I can just try and rally the other devotees so that we can just get them also to be consistently available during this time. And most devotees plan weeks in advance, that type of thing, with kids and whatever else.
Yeah, I want to try to be steady with this. It's really important. I have to frankly confess, I have an operation coming up, and the doctors are not able to tell me when that's going to be, but it's going to be within the next week or two. So maybe longer than that. We don't even know. I'm going to have a hernia operation, and then I may have some time for recovering, and then we also have to shift. We're going to be put out on the street. Nobody's putting us on the street, but we're losing a place we're staying now. We're going to have to shift to somewhere else. I don't know what the internet's going to be like or the new situation. But aside from all that, our goal is to stay in one place for 3 or 4 months and do some writing. And during those 3 or 4 months, I want to continue this in a steady way. Yeah. So I'm looking forward in the future to becoming more steady with it.
The other important thing to consider, December time, particularly in South Africa, devotees included will have their holidays and all those kind of things. So they will be obliged to travel, visiting family and all those kind of things. So maybe we could consider from that perspective, we just take a break, giving you a bit of space to also recover and all those kind of things. While I mentioned that we want the consistency, that was just mainly so that, because we found a gap, like even going back into this chapter 6, I had to kind of warm my memory up onto what we had discussed the last time round. Yeah. Which then becomes a challenge for the continuity perspective. But we're very conscious of the practical element. I mean, even on our side, there's so many things that are coming up in December. There's a lot of programs and all those kind of things as well. So, but let's take it on the week by week proposals in the meantime, and
Okay.
until we can get to a
I
separate point.
appreciate you're always staying in touch with me and asking me things like that. That's really helpful for me. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm good. I just want to be here for the devotees, but I'm also happy if I have less online classes to do like this. It's also nice for me. I'll spend more time writing and focus. But I'm good either way. But I would like
Okay.
to. I'm ready to make a commitment for this.
No, perfect. Then probably let's continue as we're doing, and then but we'll stay in touch just to make sure that there's no hindrance from your perspective and your scheduling and those kind of things.
Okay. Krishna Kun, do we have a few minutes we could discuss it as something that we've gone behind?
Yeah.
Bana, why don't we finish and we can come back online in just 5 minutes or something, okay? Is that good for you right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta
Jai.
Prabhu.
It's glad to see you, Devacha, Padma, Krishna, Krishna.